The SDA churches of Cocoyea and Pleasantville present
Critical Talking Points. Raw talk. Real people.
Ready to overcome.
A virtual series. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook,
and Adventist Radio London.
Made for the young people.
Raw, real, and ready. Join us now.
Very pleasant good morning to one and all. Indeed, we serve a mighty God. And at this time, we just want to welcome all of you for joining us today. Today, it's Raw. We're ready. And indeed, we're going to talk about the wonders of God's word as we speak to relationship. Let us bow our heads as we pray. Mighty Father, into your hands we give you all thanks and praise, your goodness, your mercy, your love towards us. We ask, your Father, that you continue to bind us, you continue to grant us your peace and your love. And even as we fellowship one with another, Father, may the grace of the mighty God be with us as we continue, Father, to listen to your word and to get even lessons from those who will be facilitating today. Bless us, I pray, in Jesus' name. Amen and amen.
Amen, amen, amen. Thank you so much, Pastor Cordell Williams. Pastor Cordell Williams is the district pastor for the Cocoyea, Pleasantville, and St. John's district. We are happy for your leadership in this initiative, Focus on Your Family, that we have been running for the last 3 months. And we're down to the penultimate week. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, I know you might be surprised, just one more week to go in this critical talking points, Focus on Your Family. And we are happy this morning to welcome those of you who have come, tuned in from Bermuda. I'm seeing a Bermuda on the chat right now. Welcome for Chaplain Mills and her team from Bermuda. Welcome. All her students from the college and so on. Good of you to join us. Welcome to those who have come all the way from good old UK. Seen Claudia and her team there. Welcome. Nice and chilly. My sister told me that last night you were snowing, and I was jealous because I love snow. So have a good time. Welcome this morning from the United Kingdom. And those who are coming from California, Heather and company, thank you for getting up early this morning and joining us. I know it's about 4 or 5 o'clock your time, something like that. So it's good of you to show commitment and be with us. I think there are some of you. I see Pastor Fox, Dr. Fox from Georgia. Welcome, Georgia, in the house. Good to have you on board. I think I might have seen Karen somewhere here too. So all those from Georgia. There are some who are here from New York. Ingrid and company, welcome from New York. And Guyana. I think somebody said Grenada as well. Grenada is in the house. And of course, Trinidad and Tobago, which is the main host country. We welcome those of you who have come on board. We expect that throughout the morning period more will join. But what a joy it is to have you with us. And it's my privilege to welcome again our hosts for today, Andy and Jozanne Paul. Welcome. As I hand over the mic to them, they take charge of today. And we have our counselors on board. I just saw Don join. Welcome, Don, our counselor for this morning, Candice, and Angie, Ms. Clement. They will tell us all about our counseling and what to do if we have any needs this morning. So God bless us all. I hand over to Andy and Jozanne at this time. Have a wonderful Sabbath day, wonderful listening and sharing critical talking points, raw, real, and ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Pilgrim, again. Good morning, everyone, and happy Sabbath to each and every one of you. Right, I am Jozanne.
And I am Anderson. We have again with us Pastor Ray and his UK team from Adventist Radio London. And as usual, they brought with them a wonderful guest, a special guest that we're going to interview and hear more about later in this main part of our program.
Yes, so we are still in the second series of our critical talking points, a deep dive into relationships. And this morning, our focus is on choices. When we make bad choices in relationships, Is there a way back? I know you may be wondering, right? So stay tuned as you will find out soon. Right, this morning, Andy, I think, we have a lot of people who are locked on every Saturday. And we want to do something different. We want to just pick them up this morning. So let's see who we have on our YouTube site and who we have here on Zoom, and just, welcome them on with us this morning.
I'm seeing Sister Denise Remy. Good morning, a special good morning and happy Sabbath to you. Thanks for being here with us.
Welcome, Sister Remy.
And there's an Avanel McCullen Gonzalez. Welcome to you.
Hi, Avanel. Happy Sabbath. And I'm also seeing Renal is on. Renal, happy Sabbath to you this morning as well. And on our Zoom, we have Keisha Johnson. She's on every week with us. We have Sister Verena. We have the Hamilton family. Thank you for being here and always supporting us on this journey.
So we have to be sure that we remind you that you place your questions in this Zoom or the YouTube chat, YouTube comments, wherever you're logged on. Make sure and place your questions as the program goes by, and we're going to try our best to get them answered. If not, you know that there's always the information of the counselors and all our contacts. There should be an email shared as well for you to send your questions to, and they will be addressed.
Yes. And if any of these topics touch you in any personal way and you want to reach out to someone, as Andy said, our counselors' contact numbers are there. You can call at any time. Anytime you feel free to share your personal experience or you have questions, you can reach out to them.
Yeah, so let's get into it. It's going to be real.
It's going to be raw.
So we hope you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have Candice and Don Roberts, part of our team here. They're going to just explore the topic, whet your appetizer palate a little bit before we get into the main course. So do enjoy, and we'll see you guys in a few.
Amen, amen, amen. Wow. That is the answer, Prayer. Prayer is the answer, and information is the answer. So welcome. Good morning, good night, good evening, wherever in the world you are joining us this morning. In Trinidad, it's very sunny and nice. Happy Sabbath to you. We love you, and we are here to support you. And to support some of the information we're going to deep dive into, we have a counselor with us, none other than Brother Don Roberts, and he's going to be here to just share some quick insight to help us break the ice on this topic. Good morning, Brother Don. How are you?
Good morning to all listening. I'm doing well, thank God.
Thank you so much for being with us. And Brother Don, I am a young single person, as well as a lot of other persons listening, and we just want to get some insights here. So our first question to you is, how does an individual go about choosing the right partner? Could you tell us some of the red flags or the green flags to look out for?
All right, morning. Now, the answers to these questions are not conclusive. I mean, we can talk about these topics for as long as we want to talk to it about. However, some of the things to look for in choosing a partner. Let's go back to our traditional saying that most of us would have heard when we were younger. Watch the way in which, if it's a guy you're looking at, watch the way in which they take care of them, they interact with their mother. All right? That important, and there are very valuable lessons one can learn from that. Another thing is to consider your partner's interests. What are the things that the person is interested in? Now, for that to be of value, you must first also be aware of your own interest. What are the things that you are interested in? And that will help you find that partner that you're looking for, being able to narrow it down a little bit. Another critical thing is to spend valuable time with the person. Now, I strongly advise, again, going back to the old teachings, that you go out in groups. So there would be somebody that you might be interested in, or that someone is interested in you. However, as you go out, you spend time with that person in group, you get to see the individual interact with other people in different circumstances. Is that person easily perturbed? Does he or she fly off the handle very easily? How do they respond to conflict and so forth with others? And when you spend time with someone or with people in various circumstances, like for example, a lot of things that young people do, go on hikes, you spend time in community projects. Most of us are Adventist or Christian at best, various church activities. What is this individual's spiritual life? What is their philosophy in life? Now, sometimes somebody may have a philosophy in life. For themselves, it's not really wrong or it's not bad. But to what extent does that philosophy coincide or match yours? You see, these are some of the important things. You talk about red flags. May I put this out one time? If you see your partner, the way they speak to you, and I don't like to label this as a male-female thing, so it goes both ways. If your partner or the person that you are looking at, they tend to get violent, red flag. If in disagreement, they begin to use foul language, or they get aggressive and want to hit things and break things, red flag. Is a person ambitious? What are their goals in life? According to how they respond to it and to what extent they work towards these goals, red flags.
But so we have all this there. Thank you for those flags. And, for us to dig deeper into it, I, as a young, beautiful young woman waiting on God, actively serving, doing what I can, I am thinking that I want to be ready, right? Yes. So this question came out of that need to be ready. Would you advise individuals who are dating to seek pre-engagement counseling?
Counseling is always a valuable thing. And when one is about to make important decisions, it is a valuable thing to seek counseling or to seek counsel. Let me use the word to seek counsel, because I want to say this. Usually when we use the word seek counseling, what comes up in our mind is this formal setting where you go and you pay your money to a certified counselor and you sit down for a requisite amount of hours and so forth. While that has its place, a lot of times there are trusted, valuable people in your space who give you or who can give you good counsel. You see, and it is important that we pay attention to these counsel. There are times other people will see things that you may not see, and they may come to you confidentially and say, listen, Candice, I noticed that you hang out with so-and-so fellow. Are you aware of so-and-so and so-and-so? Or have you considered so-and-so? Right? So, yes, you have the informal counsel, which plays its role. And again, it wouldn't hurt to seek professional counseling, especially if your circle, within your circle, there isn't trustworthy persons that can give you good counsel.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Don, for giving us that insight. And no better counsel than, getting it from real experiences and persons who are versed in this field. Yes. So I want to pass it over to Pastor. Thank you, Brother Don. I want to pass it over to Pastor Ray, who's going to go a deeper dive into this topic. Welcome, Pastor Ray. It's all yours.
Good morning, Candice. Thank you, Dr. Don, for that information. Boy, I tell you, if you ever wanted to get into a relationship, I think the Doc Candice has just told us how to do it and how to do it well. I just want to make sure that his services are free. Amen. And would you marry folk? Would you counsel folk who have been married and need to get married again? Now, don't answer that. I'm going to leave that alone, and we're going to move forward in Jesus' name. This morning, with us on this platform, I have a dear friend of mine. As we delve into this thing about when you make choices and sometimes them go according to plan, how do we get back to where God wants us to be? Or is God going to use that setback as a comeback? Hallelujah. And with me on the platform, I'm looking for her, is Naomi. Naomi, are you here? Oh, she's there, looking in all her glory. Amen. So Naomi, say hi to the folk in Trinidad.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be connected with you all. I was actually saying that the fact that I'm virtually in Trinidad, it is probably the closest I'm going to be able to get to Grenada for a long time. So I'm very, very happy to be here.
And so Naomi is with us, and Claudia is with us, and Xenia is with us, and of course Angela is with us from Adventist Radio London. And if you are listening by radio, I'd like you to know this is a joint effort with Dr. Pilgrim from Trinidad and his team, and it will also be airing it at 5 p.m. live on Adventist Radio London. So please lock in. Dr. Fox, thank you so much for stepping in and being part of the team today as we go through the discussion. As you can see, I'm dressed in a shirt and tie. That means that today one of our churches is officially opening for services. Amen. And yours truly is the speaker. Therefore, I will be nipping out, and the ladies will handle what they got to handle, and then I'll be nipping back before the end of the program to end with our consecration and all the good stuff. And so let's begin, Naomi and Jenny. I hope you're standing by, because as soon as my coat is tugged, you're gonna have to jump in and run with it from there. Ladies, Claudia, I see you smiling. By the way, Claudia has a new hairdo today, and we're so grateful that God has blessed her with lots of money. Sorry, couldn't let that one go. Anyway, Naomi, if someone were to ask you a question and they said, "Who is Naomi?" what would be your response?
That's always a challenging question because I wear multiple hats. The first thing is, and I always need everyone to understand, is that I'm human first. So regardless of what other label you want to put on top afterwards, I am a human. I am a mere human being, which means that I fall just like you fall. It means that I cry just like you cry. It means that I laugh just like you laugh. And I'm just a human being.
I can't believe that you're human. That don't make sense.
Well, sometimes also being a pastor's kid, or sometimes people forget. And so I always like to establish and embrace fully my humanness. Outside of that, I am a mother. I have got 2 wonderful, crazy children. I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. I'm a transformational coach, business consultant. I lecture, I'm a speaker. So I do a range of things. But ultimately, I feel most alive when I'm in a position to be able to help people bridge the gap between where they are and where they ultimately want to be. So great. That's a bit about me.
Great. Wonderful. Amen. Hallelujah. So Naomi, let's get to the nitty gritty. Okay. So you said you're a pastor's kid. Right. You said you're a pastor's kid, which is always dangerous. Okay. Because the expectations are very high. Okay. Have you enjoyed being a pastor's child?
No. Growing up, I absolutely hated it. It was the bane of my life and my sisters as well. The reason why we disliked it so much is because we found that church folk would place absolutely ridiculous expectations on us as children. For example, there could be 10 children running around after church outside. If we were among that number, we would be the ones that are being pulled out and no, you should know better. You shouldn't be running. Your dad is a pastor. Absolutely ridiculous. And so as a child, absolutely hated it. I also hated being forced to go to the front, being forced to stand up when they're introducing my dad. Like I hated all of that. So I grew up within the church wanting to hide and to have permission to just be me. I didn't have my own identity. My identity was linked to someone else, which made things challenging. But, as I got older and I developed this mouth, I was very easily able to put people back in their place.
Lord have mercy.
And I often got in trouble.
Let me warn the folk in Trinidad, we're about to get real and raw, and I hope you're ready, because that mouth gets out of control every now and then. So we pray she's going to keep it intact for the Trinidadian folk. And now the folk in New York can handle it, and maybe the folk in Bermuda, but for Trinidad, we have to tread softly because Dr. Pilgrim may have a lot of mopping up work to do after we get through. Let me jump on this whole idea of the pastor's kids. How many times growing up did someone come to you and say, it's time for you to get married?
Oh dear. If I had a pound or a dollar for every time I was told that, then I would be a very, very rich woman today.
So is that a pressurizing thing? Because the elder was talking about relationships and all the rest of it. Is that because I'm finding that the divorce rate in churches are going through the roof, and I'm not suggesting that it's down to people just pushing people, but it could be down to the pressures of it's time for you to get married. You're 21, you know what I mean? Time for you to have children. Is that the kind of pressures that were around when you were growing up?
To be honest, I don't remember receiving a lot of that sort of pressure, directly, at least anyway. However, it was definitely something that was encouraged. And to be quite frank, being married was almost the pinnacle of the Christian woman's experience. And so I recall in church, as women, we were encouraged and almost taught how to become wives. But I didn't really see the same thing happening for our male counterparts. There wasn't that obsession with men becoming wonderful husbands, but there was for women becoming amazing wives. And so I do think it was a little out of balance. But I don't recall receiving that direct pressure. I think being a pastor's kid, I had different pressures, and it was less so about the importance of getting married.
Okay. So are you married now?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
I was engaged. I was engaged to the father of my children, but that didn't work out. And so no, I'm not married.
Okay, well, as soon as you said all of that, I can get into the nitty gritty now. So you got 2 children, you're engaged to the dad, you didn't get married. So talk to me, brethren. Talk to me. There's something that isn't consistent with typical Adventist, or maybe it's typical. I don't know. Maybe it's typical. I don't know. But you have 2 children. You have never been married.
No.
And you're a pastor's kid. And you're a pastor's kid.
Yes.
Help me make 1 and 1 must 2 and all the rest of it. How does that work? Well, I know how it works.
We won't go to that level of detail.
Yeah. Good.
But what I will say is this. Go on.
No, I was going to say that.
Did you say something, Ray?
No, I was going to say that because there may be young people listening that may have been in the same situation, or there are some maybe thinking that, you know what, man, I just going to do my own thing and forget what we learned at church or whatever. Help them through your story.
Okay. So the father of my children, we met in church. Probably at the age of 14 or so. I need to also just establish something and make something very clear. This title of PK has hovered over me for many, many years, even to the point where I was no longer a child. And so I can safely say that I was a fully grown adult living by myself when I had my children. But regardless, somehow it's my dad's fault somehow. Anyway. So, we had a really, we had a good relationship. We had no problems. We had a great time. But then what I find is that sometimes I can't talk about what happens in the Caribbean or necessarily in America, but at least here in the UK, typically when boys start to get to a certain sort of age, there seems to be a bit of I think church becomes less relevant to their experience. In my opinion, church, at least here in the UK, is very much tailored towards appealing to women. And I feel that there is a huge gap and a disconnect oftentimes between, what the church offers and how they meet the needs of men and how they do the needs of women. And so, he distanced himself from church and he was no longer involved in that sort of way. However, by that point, it was too late because I was already deeply in love. He was my first love. And and it was too late. And I remember we actually broke up because I said first of all, we broke up, first of all, because my dad said, no, he's not having it. That was the first thing. Dad said, no, this is not right. This is not happening. And so in effect, I wasn't allowed to be in a relationship with him. And for a good number of years, we were completely apart. But that's only, there comes a point in time when parents, as much as you might want to, as much as you might pray, as much as you may try, you simply cannot control what your grown adult children do outside once they've left your home. And we got back into a relationship when I was perhaps in my early 20s, and one thing led to another, and baby number 1 was on the way. Then sometime later, baby 2 was on the way, and that's the reality. And let me also say something. I knew from, I can't say what age or what point it was. I had the feeling, the impression that this wasn't the best or the most healthy situation for me. But I think as girls, especially, we've been sold a fairy tale and we buy into that. And we think that love is so important, and love conquers all. And it didn't matter how incompatible we were. If our love was strong enough, we could make it work. It's only now in my older years I've come to realize, that song, "What's Love Got to Do with It?" And love is probably the minimum. I've been taught that now it's important to marry in spite of rather than marry because of. So you love him, so what? Go on. I think you're muted, Ray.
Yeah, I'm good now. I've got to make my run to go speak. I'm going to hand over to Xenia. But the question I really want to know is, you had the 2 children. How bad of a setback was that?
Oh, okay. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Me having my children was one of the greatest blessings of my entire life. In many ways, I would say that me having my children saved my life. I don't think that if I had not had them, I would be on a completely different path now, because I would only be thinking about myself and what it was that I wanted or what I needed. Having my children taught me lessons that I didn't know I had to learn. Having my children transformed my life completely. And so while at face value, it may have seemed like such a terrible thing to happen. And oh my goodness, the pastor's daughter, no one understands the blessing that it was for my life. And it is a large part of the reason I am who I am today. And here's what I've learned is that no matter what the experiences that we go through are, when you have your steps ordained and when God has a plan for you, it doesn't matter what sort of detour you think you're taking. It doesn't matter what sort of life choices you make. It doesn't matter what curveballs are thrown. Eventually, you will get exactly to where you're supposed to be. I think of even the story of Jonah. He was running in the opposite direction. He did not want to go. And it didn't matter. He could have run, he could have skipped, he could have jumped. It took the belly of a large fish to bring him back to where he was supposed to be. And so how much of a setback? It changed my plans. I remember being shocked, pleasantly surprised, or maybe not so pleasantly at first. But something in hindsight, things happened exactly the way that they were meant to. And I remember asking God to repurpose my pain and repurpose my experience. And so I am not a person who will be beaten by anyone's words or judgment or condemnation, because I understand that what God has been able to do in my life as a result of me just being open, honest, and vulnerable, that has what has had the impact on the people that I'm able to serve today. If I were to come to everyone today, all prim and proper, never really experienced life, never gone through anything, and I'm telling you the good news, it wouldn't be as compelling as if I were to share with you the truth of my story, which is that, I've been in life and death situations as a result of the decisions that I have made. I have been in positions where my liberty, my freedom could have been compromised. And because I've been so down in the dumps and down and dragged through the dirt, that's why I'm able to stand with such confidence today. So how much of a setback was having my children? It definitely disrupted my plans. But I understand that no matter how warped my own planning may have been, how warped my perception of life may have been, God was able to make a masterpiece out of my mess. And therefore, I'm able to boast in my weaknesses, as the book of Corinthians says, because God's grace is truly sufficient.
Xenia, what do you think, girl?
Oh, wow. What a powerful testimony. Thank you, Naomi.
Naomi said that she asked God to repurpose her pain.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Now, the folk in Trinidad, I can't see any faces. I don't know where they are with that, but that made me almost fall off my chair, because that's a serious statement. When you think of a setback, relationship didn't go according to plan. Here comes not one but two children, so you can't call it a mistake. Sorry, did I say that loud? Sorry, did I say that loud? Sorry, I was just saying what people were thinking, that's all.
It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't, and I will never pretend. It was not a mistake. Good. No, it was not.
Good. And so the reality is now, the pain has been repurposed. Xenia, go ahead. Do what you got to do, because I'm going to run away in a few minutes.
I've read somewhere that even wrong turns can lead to the most beautiful destinations. Absolutely. And when I listen to Naomi speak, that's what comes to mind. God repurposing and just making good out of the wrong turns that we've made in our lives. What I wanted to ask Naomi, and I have to ask it because this is kind of rung true to me as a mother who, I got pregnant outside of wedlock. I was the secretary for the personal ministries team, and it was just a difficult time. And I just wondered what atmosphere was there amongst the church folk, and did you get any support at all? And what would you sort of say to them, our church brethren, in terms of supporting young people like you who may have made these types of mistakes, or we don't want to call it mistakes. But
no, I was going to correct you. I definitely
exactly.
didn't crave.
I have a 13-year-old, and there's no mistake about him. But obviously, this is not where we would have chosen for ourselves, perhaps. So what would you say to the church brethren there?
Well, two things. I think by the time I had baby number one, I wasn't really attending church. That's the truth. I made and everyone, I need you to hear me well. I made a conscious decision to walk away from the church, from that environment. Okay. Why did I walk away? I walked away because I wanted what I wanted. And I didn't have the guts to pray about it in case God told me no. And so the best thing in my head was to just walk away and do my own thing. As you can probably tell, I'm quite an outspoken person. I'm known for having a big mouth and being able to say whatever it is I need to say to absolutely anyone. And so if I'm, being perfectly frank, no one in church said anything to me. So there was never an invite, the times I did go to church, I went with, a dress that would print out my belly real nice and everything. And no one said anything to me. I know for a fact people said things behind my back. But again, being a PK, I'm born into this thing. So I'm used to church people talking. I'm so used to it. So honestly, it really is like water off a duck's back. I can't take you church people on. I'm sorry. But no one said anything to me. However, what I will say, if I had an opportunity to maybe do it again and be able to address some of those people who had negative things to say, I would encourage them to remember that our paths are all individual. Our walks are all individual. What may take you a week to deal with, God may not have even started working on it in me just yet. Mm-hmm. And so I do also believe that it's important that we lose this cloak of I don't even know what to call it, the facade, the mask that we put on when so many of us go into church on a Sabbath, pretending like we've got it all together, pretending like things don't go wrong in our lives, because I have found that it has been my transparency and that it has been my honesty that has caused younger people or even older people to be able to come to me and pour out their heart and say what they've been going through and the struggles that they've been going through. You see, when you appear to be, holier than thou and nothing, you've never sinned, you've never messed up, you've never made a mistake, how can I approach you coming to seek help and seek counsel? I was going through things that I in my wildest imagination, I would never ever have to deal with. The father of my children was incarcerated and for a period of time. And I went through that whole process in effect alone without the support, because I didn't know I could talk about this. I mean, we're in an environment, again, I can't talk about around the world, but here in the UK, we're in an environment where the worst thing I can say in church is, "Oh, church, I didn't read my Bible this week," or "I didn't study my lesson this week." So how do I reach out and cry for help from this body of Christ, this family, to say, actually, I'm struggling because I'm 6 months pregnant and the father of my children is not going to be around for the birth of our baby. Like, how do I articulate that? How do I articulate that I'm feeling lost, I'm feeling hurt, I'm feeling confused, but when all I see is pointing fingers and basically serves you right? This cannot work. When we owe it to future generations, we owe it to ourselves even, to understand that God knows our hearts. Why do I have to pretend for you as a man or as a woman? Absolutely not. So I think what we need is a dose of reality, a dose of honesty and transparency, because that's when true healing and true growth can take place.
That's a common theme. I mean, in terms of the programs that we have done over these past few weeks, that's the common theme, that we do need to have openness, transparency, and we're calling it real and raw. And these discussions need to happen. I'm going to open up to Angela, perhaps, if she's got a question to ask, or Claudia, and see where they're coming from this.
Okay, thank you again, Naomi, for your story, and totally agree with you there. I mean, for all your boldness and your strength and what have you, there must have been real sort of low points during that time. As you said, it's been difficult. What really kept you motivated? Because as much as you are a bold, strong person, there must have been times where you felt completely alone, as you said, doing things by yourself. What was your kind of real motivation? What kept you motivated to kind of keep going and, to keep striving towards your goals during that time?
My children. I've mentioned to you that my children, well, not to you personally, but I mentioned that my children saved my life. My self-esteem was shattered. I was a shell of the woman that I am today. Sometimes when I reflect on my experience, I actually can't believe that I was that person, that broken, damaged. I can't believe it. I don't recognize the woman that I was during that season. What kept me motivated and what kept me going was the fact that my children did not ask to be here. Like, they didn't ask for any of this. And they don't deserve a mother who is literally on the floor and cannot drag herself up. I'll never forget, it was a Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And it was, in the UK around this time of year, it gets dark real quick. And I remember being locked in my, sorry, one of my babies has just walked in. What's that? Okay, hold on, baby. I remember being in my home. I dropped my kids to my parents and I just came back home and I was just on the floor crying. That's all I could do. I didn't have the strength to do anything else other than to just weep bitterly. And I remember thinking, this is it. Like this, I can't do it anymore. I don't have the strength. But then, I don't know, something came over me and I realized that I'm all that my children actually have. And that if I don't get myself together, then the suffering I feel I'm going through now, I have the potential of inflicting that, whether directly or indirectly, on these innocent people that I love more than anything. And that is not right. They don't deserve that. They need so much more than that. And so I was therefore determined to pick myself up and get moving. And I remember that's when I began my journey of personal development. And I came across this quote that I'll share with you now. And it transformed everything for me. It changed the game. It was this: watch your thoughts, for they become your words. Watch your words, for they become your actions. Watch your actions, for they become your habits. Watch your habits, for they become your character. And watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. In my desperation, I decided that I would apply some childlike faith. And I was going to take this literally because I had nothing left. And I said that I'm going to try transforming the way that I think in order to transform my entire life. And that's when my journey began. And here's the thing: although this may have come from, I can't even remember who said that quote, I understood that this was a biblical principle. What is that text? I think it might be in Philippians. Forgive me if it's not. Whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are true, what we think about, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. I understood. Thank you. Philippians 4 and verse 8. I understood the power of our mind, and I understood that this is in the Bible. This is in the Word. That the things that we focus on are the things that ultimately we almost draw into our lives. And so, my motivation to keep going was the fact that my children deserved better. And I said, there is no way I am going through all of this in vain. No, my story cannot end here. And that's when I asked God to repurpose my pain. These tears can't be in vain. The suffering, the heartache can't be in vain. And so I decided that, you know what, let me have the courage to be able to share my story, as ugly as it may be to some, as painful or as embarrassing as it may be to some. It can be used for greater good. And that's exactly what I've seen happen.
Amen. Powerful word.
Thank you. It's amazing. Over to you, Claudia. Any questions there?
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that powerful testimony, Naomi. I can see the chat blasting, and it's in a good way. Now, I have a throw a little question for you. I know you had your pastor and your mother support. I cannot say that because you say you bring the kids to them and so on. So based on that, I'm thinking about the young person, be it man or woman, boy or girl, the young person who does not have that support. And in particular, when you're from maybe a poor background and your parents have invested in you, so to speak, they're supposed to set you free, but they can't afford to because of how the family structure is and the socioeconomic situation. Now, when someone, a youth in that, find themselves in such difficulty under those circumstances, they're disappointing quite a lot of people. It's not just them. How would you encourage them to approach that? Because it's totally different from being in a more supportive environment.
That's a great question. And I must definitely say, and anytime I share my story, I must say that my parents were absolutely rocks for me during this time. I remember being terrified of what their reaction would be. Now, I was scared. Imagine, I'm 25 years old. I was 25 years old anyway. I knew they weren't going to beat me. Like they're not going to beat me. What on earth are they going to do? And that was what was terrifying. But I remember my parents just thought, Naomi, what an idiot. Why are you panicking like this? We absolutely love you and you're good. We got you. And so I was blessed to be in that situation. I do know, however, that there are those who may go through similar experiences who don't have that network of support. And I think this is the time when in those situations, and I'm trying to make this practical, in those situations, I believe this is where the church family, the church body needs to really step up. And this is why, so for example, for me in my sphere, in my world, when I see a single parent, let me talk about this pandemic even. I had a number of friends who were raising children by themselves, who struggled to even be able to get access to a supermarket to buy food. They lost their jobs, they didn't have money. And so I know what it's like to be in a situation where you kind of feel desperate, but thank God I've had a lifeline. And so I've promised myself to strive to be the lifeline that other people may need. And so in that time, I put out something on Facebook. I said, listen, I've got some families whose children may not be fed tonight. And I need you, the family, the church, to step up. And so I instantly, like it didn't take long, within a couple of hours, we had hundreds of pounds collected. We had organizations who were delivering food and parcels to these families. And this, to me, is what Christianity is all about. I can sit down in church Sabbath after Sabbath and wear my Sabbath best and sing all the hymns and recite scripture. But if I have no love, if I have no compassion, what is it really worth? And so my thing is, what does that person do? Actively seek out the people who are real. Actively seek out the people who are in a position to demonstrate that Christ's love. Don't necessarily go to the person who has the title, sister, so-and-so, brother, elder, deacon, because they may not have that love of Christ in their hearts to be able to demonstrate that practical Christianity. But it's about your network and it's about that community and seeking out the individuals who are in a position to offer that support. And on the part of asking for support, don't feel embarrassed to say, I'm struggling and I need help. Put the call out. Like there is no shame in saying that you need help. And that, women especially, I'm going to talk to us Black women for a moment. We have this stigma or these things attached to us to say that, we're supposed to be strong and the matriarchs, and sometimes that's rubbish. Let me be honest with you. Sometimes that is absolute rubbish. Sometimes the strongest thing that you can do is put your hands up and say, I'm drowning. Help me. Don't suffer in silence. Don't struggle all by yourself, because there are people, and I can't say it's everyone, and we as a church, we've got work to do in sorting ourselves out, because some of the attitudes and some of the behaviors that we exhibit as so-called people who follow Christ is absolutely abhorrent and absolutely disgusting, and the opposite, in my opinion, of what Christ's love actually means. But we owe it to ourselves to live the life that Christ lived. Imagine if Christ was on this earth right now, would he be sitting down in church Sabbath after Sabbath, passing judgment? Would he be at board meeting deciding who is going to be disfellowshipped? Or would he be out there with the lowest of the low? Would he be out there trying to hold my hand when I'm crying and I don't know what's going to be happening in my life? That's exactly where he's going to be. And so if we say that we are Christians following Christ's example, we need to fix up and start emulating that.
Wow. Well said, Naomi. Well said. I'm going to throw it back to the polls for them to maybe ask a couple of questions. I see a few in the chat. Not sure if they're there. Oh, well, I'm not hearing from them. Let me ask one. There was one here from Candace. It says, you mentioned that love is not all in the recipe for relationships. What are the other areas we should consider or address?
Okay, so when I said that, love is not enough, love to me is nice, but the type of love, and, for people who have been in relationships before, that feeling maybe at the beginning where you get the butterflies and every time you see the person's face, and that's all good, but that fades after a while. And if you're attempting to build a relationship on that feeling, well, you're going to be in big trouble, because in years to come, perhaps if you last that for that duration of time, there's going to be a time when that face doesn't fill you with glee and happiness, but it's going to fill you with dread, perhaps, because that person has just gotten on your last nerve. Like they've messed up again. And if all you're holding on to is that love, then you're in real problems. I believe that some of the elements that we need to be looking for in terms of at least as Christians, again, I'm not speaking to maybe necessarily people who don't believe what we believe, is principle. I think our principles and our values and our morals need to be in alignment. How can two walk together unless they agree? Aside from the spiritual side of things, let's talk practical things right now. I don't know the age group of everyone on our on this broadcast right now, but I'll be honest with you, when I'm thinking about who I'm going to enter into a long-term, a long-term relationship, a potential marriage with, we're bringing our two worlds together. I want to know about what your cultural background and my cultural background. Is it going to be a good cultural fit? What sort of relationship do you have with your family? What is your, how important is a family unit to you? Did you experience that love from both a mother and father growing up? If not, how is that impacting you in the way that you see the world? What's your credit like? And that might sound really superficial for some people, but I'm talking about real life here. Yeah. I'm not talking about the couple that is only doing church together. We're doing life together. And so if I'm going to be joining, if I'm going to take on your last name, then if you have debts, potentially I'm taking on your debts too. And I need to be able to make an informed decision about these sorts of things. Maybe if we're going to be talking about having children, what's your opinion on that? How many children do you want to have? What happens if for some reason or another we can't have children? Will that be a deal breaker? What about how you may be perceiving the importance or how to discipline children? Are we at odds with with our opinions on that? Maybe it could be in terms of education. How much is education valued with you? It's a full spectrum. It's not just the lovey-dovey nice stuff. It's about understanding that we are doing life together. Do you expect me to be a stay-at-home mum and raise the children and be a housewife and make sure that your food is on the table for you by the time you come home from work? Do you have any intention of going out and working? Like, are you planning to maybe go back and study? Am I going to have to carry the financial burden? These are all things that we need to consider when we're getting into relationships. We have been watching too much Disney. Yeah, where the princess sees her Prince Charming and he comes on a white horse and carries her off into the sunset and they live happily ever after. That is for the cartoons. That's for TV. This is not real life. It's just not real life. And so for me, these are all some of the things that I will consider. And let me say, for someone like me who has children, there is now an added level of an added layer of complexity, because I want to know how you are with my children, because my children and I, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your perspective, we're a package. You're not going to separate one from the other. Are you going to resent my children? If we have children of our own, are my children going to be treated less or seen as inadequate? Are they going to feel that? These are some of the things that we need to consider. And I could, talk for a whole 2 hours on what to consider when getting into relationships. And obviously we don't have the time right now, but these are some of the things to consider.
I know that you're leaving us at 1. So I'm just going to ask you, what final words would you like to leave us with, especially our young people?
Thank you for reminding me of the time, because honestly, when I get going, I could just go. Here's what I will say. In life, we experience storms. Things happen. Things happen that can throw us off course, that can knock us down, lay us out flat on our faces, put us in positions that we never dreamed of being in. But I cast my mind back to the story in the Bible where Jesus was on board with the disciples. Now, these disciples, these were seasoned fishermen. They knew their way around the seas, and they would be prepared for all the eventualities that would take place if they were out fishing. But the Bible tells us that suddenly a storm hit, and the disciples were in panic mode. They were afraid. They were worried that they were going to drown. And so they weren't smiling and happy and just enjoying. No, they panicked. They were terrified. And so they wanted to wake up Jesus. He's sleeping at a time like this. Wake him up, wake him up, wake him up. Panic stations all around. And it makes me think that sometimes in our lives, that's what happens. We've got Jesus beside us. We've got our relationship with God. And, when the waves are calm and the skies are blue, We're happy. It's all good. Praise the Lord. But sometimes in life, the storm hits. And it's human. You're human. Every one of you is human first. And you are afraid. You are panicked. You're nervous. You're terrified as to how you are going to get out of this. Oh my goodness, God, I am going to drown. Oh my Lord, I'm 35 plus and no man has found me yet. I'm going to drown. Or I'm in a toxic relationship. My goodness, God, help me. I am going to drown. I'm involved in things that I've got no business in. Lord, help me. I'm going to drown. But something incredible happened aboard that boat. You see, whilst there was a frenzy and commotion and panic all around, they woke up the Savior. And he was able to simply speak. Speak, and the storm stopped raging. He was able to just speak. And the waves that were crashing and that threatened to sink that boat obeyed him. And they were still. What that teaches me, and it gives me so much hope, and as I'm even thinking about it, it's giving me tingles all over my body, that the same God who was in that ship, in that fishing boat, who was able to calm the storm, is able to calm the storms that may be raging in your life today. I don't know your story. I don't know your situation. I don't know what it is that you are going through right now. You may be facing a storm or a battle that absolutely no one knows about. You may be in a situation that you are ashamed of. You have you don't have the boldness or the guts to be able to cry out and say, I'm drowning. But if you can't turn to anyone, you cry out to Jesus. Because the same Jesus who was in that boat, who calmed the winds and the waves and spoke and told the seas to be still, can do the exact same thing in your life. And let me tell you something, even if he does not calm the storm today, just like the song says, with Jesus in the vessel, you can truly smile at the storm. Because he will never leave you. He will never, ever forsake you. And it doesn't matter what path you may have taken and what road you may seem to be on right now. He can turn it around in an instant. There is absolutely nothing that he cannot do. And therefore, you can have a quiet confidence that even though your life may seem to be falling apart all around you, you can be confident that all things are working together for your good. You can smile through your storm. Smile even if you have tears streaming down your face. Even if night times you're crying into your pillow. You can be smiling inside because you know that God's got you. He's never going to leave you. And it might take a week. It might take a month. It might take a year. It might take 10. Stay in the boat. Amen. Stay in the boat. Because with the master there, that's the best place that you truly can be. And if he can do it for me, if he can do it for me, and if he can do it in my life, he most certainly can do it for you. Today, I am proud of who I am. I'm proud of what God has done in my life. I'm proud of what I've been able to achieve, regardless of the start to my story. And so even if your story is a mess right now, trust him. Because he has the capacity, he has the power, and he loves you enough to turn your mess into a masterpiece. That's all I've got for you today.
Oh, wonderful words, Naomi. I know that you are headed to Ghana. That's the next step in your journey right now. Yes. Wishing you safe travels, all the very best. Is it ministry that you're going to do there?
No, I'm having a break. This has been a busy year. I need a holiday. Like I'm going to the beach. I'm going to chill not chill. I'm going to be sweating a lot in that heat, but I'm going to have a break. That's what I'm doing.
Enjoy it. And we look forward to connecting with you again in the future.
Okay, wonderful.
I'm just going to open up to Angela and Claudia if there's anything they want to add or to offer to this as we send Naomi off. In grand style, really.
Yes, 2 Corinthians 5:7 said, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he's a new creature. All things are old. Old things have become new. Now, I am very, very inspired inspired by just listening to Naomi. And there's a lot of us who can relate to having circumstances where we have fallen. And the message I'll take from that for us is, I'll take it as a church. Look out for the people who are not doing so well. So when they cry for help, we can hear them. The support for me is a big concern. We need to extend our Christianity into practically supporting people when they fall. And when they fall, they'll know not to run hither and thither, but to come to the house of the Lord and seek refuge. So thank you very much, Naomi. Very inspirational.
Yes,
welcome.
I really love your quote, turning your mess into a masterpiece. And I really love Jeremiah 29 verse 11. And I love reading it in different versions. But in the message, it says, I'll show up and take care of you as I promised and bring you back home. I know what I'm doing. I've all planned out, plans to take care of you, not abandon you, and plans to give you the future you hope for. So despite what you may have gone through, as you said, God has got it all worked out. And even though, in our eyes, we may think, okay, this may not be what I necessarily wanted, but God's got your back. God's got it all. And at the end of the day, if you allow him, obviously you go through that whole period of healing, asking for forgiveness, everything else, and then allow him to listen to his voice, he will, do great things with you. And as you've been testament to, he's doing a wonderful work with you, and it will continue because it's a continual growth and a journey that you're on, which can only get bigger and better. And, and God can use anybody. We follow all these stories in the Bible of how God has used people, ordinary people who are completely, their lives are messed up. And, we should take courage and inspiration from that as we do from yourself today. So, yeah, definitely thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Okay, everyone. We just have a few questions that we want to throw out. Is Zenia there? Is it okay if we come in now?
Yes, sure.
All right. Is Don on? We have a question that he may be able to address from your side. Don, are you there?
Yes, I am.
We have a question coming in. Is it wrong to say that we made a bad decision or wrong choice with a relationship? Because I understand in psychology, is important that we recognize our wrong choice in order to promote healing. Can you comment?
Yes, admission is always the first step in healing. When it comes to a relationship, however, sometimes, or at the stage of where you recognize that things are going bad, sometimes you may not necessarily use the word, well, I made a bad choice. In my own life, sometimes you look back and you say, I wonder if I made the correct choice. And we often ask ourselves those questions when things are going bad. But there's always a place where you have to really self-evaluate. Look at your life choices. I mean, throughout this series, we've been talking about choices and so forth. You look at your life choices, and sometimes you could come back and say, you know what? Yeah, I did bad. I went wrong. You can do that. But the message is, and as was stated by Naomi today, the message really is, after you would have recognized where you're at or what may have gone wrong in your life, are we able to go forward? And the answer to that question is always yes. You can turn it around. And I'm going to say it here, even if, unfortunately, you have to walk away from that relationship, your life can still be a productive one.
Because thanks for the comment, Don. We listened to Naomi speak, and we realized that she has had 2 kids, but she's not married. And you find in Christian circles, we would see that when persons have kids, sometimes that becomes the reason they marry. And it's not always the best situation afterward, So
yeah,
we have one more question. I'm not sure if Claudia or Don or whoever may want to address it.
Right, so this one is from a female perspective, and they are saying if their biological clock is running out, as you know, and there's no husband material around in sight, but they really want to have a child, right? What advice could you give them as a Christian having a child out of wedlock based on the situation?
I understand Naomi is still around. I don't know if she would be able to address this question.
Oh dear. Oh, do you know? So, let me be perfectly honest. And I'm gonna hold my hands up. I do not feel that I am qualified to answer this question in any degree of sincerity or honesty because I have children. One thing I hate is going to singles events where all the presenters are married. You don't know the struggle, so I don't really want to hear from you right now. The truth is that I have children. I have 2 children already. Even if I never have another child, I've still got my boy, I've got my girl, I've got the pair, so I'm fine. I cannot begin to relate in a meaningful way to someone who isn't in that position. And so on that basis, I will not answer because I do not want to appear insensitive or give an insulting answer because it's easy for me to say. I've already got the kids and I'm not married. So I can't answer that. That's the truth.
You see, these are tough questions, but they are real questions.
They are.
I think
yeah, I have had friends in my life who said exactly that. I had a friend who said once, and these are Adventist Christian friends, who said, I don't want to get married. When I wait for a child, I know exactly what to do. Mm-hmm. And these are real questions, but these are questions I want to humbly suggest that you and your God got to answer. Because the truth about it, there are consequences, and I'm not referring to this fellowship and all these other things now. There are real consequences to a choice to have a child deliberately, even out of wedlock, and all of these type of things. There are things that you go through, right? As a matter of fact, making the choice to have a child is a big deal, all right? So that one has to think about these things carefully and be aware of the possible pitfalls that can come, the struggles that can come, and whether or not you're willing to deal with it, But these are personal questions, really, at the end of the day for me.
Claudia, you were saying something?
Yes, I was saying I'm quite single and unmarried, and I do not feel, personally for me, I don't feel the urge to hurry and get married and have kids. I don't. The way our the mindset is, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I keep living my life. But there are lots of people who are not like that, and so they actively seek to pursue the route of getting the relationship and then getting the kids. And unfortunately, in some cases, they grab onto anything and only realize after they're married, after the kids have come, that this was not a good way to go about it, because your kids are a blessing. I don't care which way they come, they're a blessing. God gave them to us as a gift. So for some of us, as for me, I'll wait. If it doesn't happen, I still have a chill life. I have nieces and nephews all over the world, and it's fun traveling. Some people may not want that, but if they do want that, my suggestion is wait upon God, pray, wait, and make good relationships with people so that you can attract the right energy around you. Make good relationships. It's important.
So something that's just come to mind, if you don't mind. And this, I feel I can say, because I am not married, we can have a tendency to make marriage, children, our God. And that becomes our sole aim and our sole goal in life. And I think that's dangerous. I believe it's important for us to know that sometimes if I am only doing things God's way because I want him to bless me with a husband and I want him to bless me with children, I believe we're on dangerous ground. And so my advice to people who may be single, who desire marriage, and there's nothing wrong in desiring marriage, is to still go out and live your life. Go out and do what you've been called to do. Get to know yourself, travel, when you can, travel, experience good things. Don't put your life on hold because you're waiting for this event to take place. There are things that you can do right now in this very moment that can bring you joy and that can bring you fulfillment. And just as Claudia says, if it happens, then it does. And if it doesn't, then I think it's also about understanding and trusting that God's will for your life is perfect. And sometimes when we try to maybe circumvent that and go around and find our own way, we can put ourselves in trouble that we didn't need. I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that I've gone through, I don't have time to share it on here. I have gone through trouble that I did not need. I've gone through stress that I didn't need. I've suffered pain that I didn't have to suffer as a result of my choices. And yes, I have been able to turn things, well, shall I say, God has turned things around and I've had positive experiences, but there are still scars that are still healing that may impact or may be impacting my future. So understand that we all have our cross to bear. And here's the harsh truth. And I know sometimes we may not like to hear it. Sometimes God's will for your life may not be that you get married and have children. That is the harsh reality. The question is, are we prepared to trust God enough, even when we are not getting the answer that we want? And I think that's the most honest thing I can say, that I feel like I'm qualified to say.
We understand Pastor's going to join us in a few, but before we take him and have him do the video and the closing section, there's one more question. You mentioned that love, and this is coming from you, Zoom, I believe. You mentioned that love is not all in the recipe for relationships. What are other areas that we should address or obtain, leading back to relationship and choices?
I think we covered that. I think we covered that at some length in terms of some of the other elements, like, not just, understanding that compatibility beyond the lovey-dovey feelings is definitely something that we need to focus on. One of the questions that I saw come in was, I think, from Zachary, who says, if love is not enough, then since God is love, then he is not enough, which I don't agree with. And I think I don't want to be misrepresented here. When I say that love is not enough, I'm talking about the love of man is not enough. Because why? Man, woman, we're fickle, and feelings are fickle, and feelings can change. Claudia, you could love me today and you could hate me tomorrow. That's just the fact of the matter. The fact that we're seeing, people who were married or who, walked up the aisle and they pledged their love to one another in front of God and man, and they were so in love, and then a few years later they're in divorce court and they hate each other's guts. Love is just not enough. The love of man is not enough. And so that's just really what I wanted to clear up. I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying God's love is not enough, because it absolutely is. But the love of man, no, there's no comparison.
And that's exactly what we wanted to clear. So that's perfect. That's perfect.
We have one more, if we could take one more. Some persons in church believe, right, there's the right husband material in church. So as young people, we tend to go outside and look with the intention of converting the person to, their religion or what have you, right? How could we advise young people in terms of being unequally yoked, but, giving them the encouragement that not everyone will be converted?
Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit more of my story. One of the main reasons that I ended up breaking up with my partner was because he converted to Islam, and then wanted myself and the children to do the same. That was a very, very challenging time, because what ended up happening is that we had to walk away from something that was was making me happy, or someone rather that was making me happy. But because we no longer agreed, we weren't in alignment. Here's the thing: I'm not going to patronize anyone. It happens. Some people do that. Some people do go out and find people of other faiths, and sometimes they do convert. It does happen. But equally, it goes the other way as well. And so what I would say is that life is challenging enough as it is. Here's something else I would add. Just because you and I may be both Adventists, that does not automatically mean that we are equally yoked. Yeah. You can be sitting next to someone in the church pew and be unequally yoked with them. I believe it is more than which church they belong to or which membership, what affiliation they have with any particular religious body. And so I would say that, again, just being in terms of real life, there are going to be risks associated, and I don't think it's sensible to put yourself in a position where the odds are stacked against you in that sort of way. It is risky. Of course, it can work. I've seen it work. I've got people who have done it and it has worked. Equally, I have people who have experienced it and it hasn't. You know, I've experienced trying to do this relationship with people of two faiths and it didn't work for me. And so for me, I would run from it. I wouldn't entertain it personally. But, you know, that's just me being honest and transparent.
Okay. We have thank you very much, Naomi. We know you have to leave. We are by no means rushing you. But we have a question for Dr. Curtis Fox. I understand that he's on with us this morning. And we have a question about artificial insemination. Do you have any comments on that? Because this is directly geared to women who may want children, but have not found the right partner. What is a biblical stance on artificial insemination?
You're talking to me? Well, I mean, there are lots of thoughts about it, to be honest with you. There is no ecclesiastical position on it. So I wouldn't presume to give a commentary because that would cost me really 2 hours. So if I answer one way or the other, you know how this goes. Yeah. I would rather spend time explaining it. Okay. Some people would say it doesn't involve sex as we know it, and there are all kinds of ethical issues associated with it. It's really complicated. To give an answer in 1 minute is to do great disservice to all the nations and constituencies involved in this call. I will not like to take that position at that time.
Okay, no problem. Well, that's definitely one that we will address, get addressed maybe when Pastor comes in. I don't know if he can somehow, maybe he's faced the question before. You know, that's Pastor Ray. You know, he's been in this forum for as long as I would know. And so we know there's a video coming up in a few, and we're going to ask Lisa to put that up so that we can come in and round up things, you know, draw things back to a biblical perspective on where God would help us in our wrong choices. As it's coming up, you know, we just want to thank everyone for being part of the program this morning. We tried to address the questions that were posed to us, and, you know, because of time, you know, we have to be out of here by 9:30. So we're trying our best to keep it. We hope Pastor is going to come and join us in a few, and we'll see how we can round things up. Thank you.
Wanted to remind everyone that we are connected with Talking Point. The ladies Angela, Claudia, and myself, and Pastor Ray's ministry will be repeating this program at 5 o'clock UK time for those who want to connect with us then. Just a lovely partnership that we've got going on between ourselves and the Cocoyea and Pleasantville Church in Trinidad.
My mom, when I was 10, she died. I didn't really know exactly how mommy got it, but I knew that AIDS was a disease that people die from. Went to the hospital, wouldn't go near my mother. She was holding her hand out to me, trying to get me to come over there, but I wouldn't go. So that was my last memory of mommy alive. When you go from having someone who you knew like loved you more than anything, you kind of know that people love you to a certain limit. Like my mother, there was no limit, you know. There was nothing I could do to make her not love me. But with other people, you knew that it wasn't unconditional, you know, even with your father. I felt like a burden. He told me he was drunk when he conceived me. And he made me feel like I didn't understand why I lived with him if you didn't really want me there. Like, I'm a burden to you. Why am I even why am I in your house? Why am I living with you if I'm such a burden? I just didn't feel love at all. So I started looking for it in boys. So any boy that gave me attention or smiled at me or told me I was pretty or cute or whatever, it was just, I kind of ran with it, and you know, I ended up, you know, giving my body to different boys in school and stuff, and it just started, that cycle began in high school, and then it kind of lasted into my adulthood years. So I thought that strippers were great. I thought they were sexy. Men love strippers. You can control men. I wanted to be wanted by these men, and I just admired strippers. I admired the women in the videos and stuff, half naked. I just thought that that's what it's about. I need to look like that. I need to be like them. So I went to a strip club. They let me start that night, and it was kind of like I got addicted to it. The extra money. I was working already full time. I was a medical assistant during the day, so I was working full time, 8 to 4, and then I would go home, take a nap, and then I would go to the club at 10 and be there until 4 a.m. So at the time, my daughter, she was with different family members. She was with maybe a cousin, and then she was in daycare at the time. So one of her teachers, she and I became really close. She loved Cocoyea. She was with her for days at a time, up to a week sometimes. Yeah. I felt alone. I had never felt that alone ever in my life. With everything I had been through, I had never felt like I wanted to die. I wanted to die. I actually begged God to please take me. Like, please, God, can I just go to sleep and not wake up? My worst fear has been my daughter losing me. And that ever since I became a mom, I feared her going through what I went through when my mother died. But at that moment, I was ready to let her feel that. It was just me and God that day in my room. I came in the house, went up to my room, and I literally was screaming. I was crying. I was like, God, just please help me. Just please help me. I got down on my knees and I was screaming. I was praying. I was like, Lord, please. I don't really want to die. I don't really want to leave my baby. I don't want to feel like this no more. I had my Bible in my hand and I was like, Lord, just please help me. And I just started feeling peaceful, and I felt like I was going to be okay. And I went to sleep. And then I just slept for a while. I woke back up and I just felt like everything is going to be okay. And from that moment, I said, Lord, you got it. I said, I won't call on anybody else. The only person that I should be dependent on is you. So from then on, it didn't get better right away, but that was just a moment where I realized, like, at the end of the day, when nobody else answers the phone, that I can always call on Jesus. So I started listening to Focus 4 years ago when I started working at the doctor's office I work at now. My co-worker, and she's a really close friend with me now, she knew that I was kind of new to Christ and stuff, because this was about a year or so after the bow down moment. So I'm still trying to find myself. I decided I'm going to be abstinent until marriage now. And so she's like, you got to listen to this station because you're going to grow. She said, as a mother, you're going to grow in so many different ways. I'm telling you. So I started listening to it, and I started hearing people like be honest about some of the stuff they were going through. Even the host, like Jim Daly, when I heard him talk about things he struggled with in his childhood, and then losing his dad and losing his mom, and he lost his mom at a very young age, and I can relate to that because people, they look at you and they think, oh, that happened so long ago, but they don't realize how it still affects you as an adult. This ministry is so important because the people that I was listening to, the hosts, the guests that we had, were pouring into me and not realizing, pouring into people like me who I didn't have anybody that I could physically go to, but I could turn on the radio every morning and hear. I could be ministered to. I ministered to every single morning. I got so much. I've grown so much since I started listening 4 years ago.
Okay, that was a deep video with her experience, and I understand Pastor Ray is back, and we would have been getting feedback that the volume was a bit low on the video. So Pastor Ray, before you continue, I don't know if it's possible for you to summarize a little bit for those who may not have heard, and then we can continue. with your closing comments. Thank you, Pastor Rui. Hand over to you.
You know, one of the powerful things about the video to me is the way God has to take us on a journey from, it seems like doing wrong, and then all of a sudden we end up doing the right thing. It'd be so nice if we just began our relationships by doing it God's way and not looking for man to help us along the journey. But like Naomi's story, and like this young lady's story, the ending, if you do it God's way, will be magnificent and unbelievable. I want to also say that our goal here this morning was just to allow you to see how the grace of God moves and how many choices are made by us, and not all of them are good choices. As great as Naomi's life is now, she had to overcome some major obstacles because of some choices that was made. And I want to tell you now, the goal here this morning is to let you know that God still has a standard of holiness and righteousness. He wants us to always have that in the forefront of our mind. And even if we mess up and we come back to God, we can still be holy and righteous. The beautiful thing about both of these stories today is that God is constantly reminding us of the call to do it his way. Even though we can use our mess and make it a message. I want to say to someone out there today, you haven't wandered too far from God for God to save you and bring you back. If God can bring Naomi back after having 2 children out of wedlock, and now she's on the battlefield for him, then God can do it for you. One of the most important things, and Dr. Fox, I want to bring you in here, because I want us to never forget that when God brings us back, he brings us back with a message and power to do a work that we probably couldn't do before the trial ensued. So as you think about your relationship, realize that a relationship can either make you or break you. Doc, give us a few minutes of closing comments, and then I'm going to ask you to pray.
I've been touched by the sentiments expressed. I believe that there is a message for us and for many in this generation. And I think the message we should not lose. I know sometimes it's difficult for people to hear certain things, and the people make interpretations of the things they hear and forget how to apply these things to their lives. I believe there is a place for that today. And I see the work of God and the work of grace in human life and in human imperfections. And we are not good at bringing perfect material to God. We've never been good at that, I think. But sometimes we are able to act as if that's the case. Well, I think the story today reminds us that we can still connect with that. And even if we think we have failed, that there is grace around the corner, and that grace is waiting to catch up with us. And in the end, should we meet grace, we might say with him who has said before, surely goodness and mercy will follow me.
Hallelujah.
Is of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That much I would say on that.
Amen. Pray for us, Ellen.
Father in heaven, we thank you for what our eyes have seen and our ears have heard and our hearts have felt. Perhaps there are some subtexts that we should not miss today. Maybe as we go through life as young people, struggling to live and be, that what we want truly in life is to know something about ourselves. What we want in life is to feel something deep and substantial and meaningful. What we want in life really is to be someone, to be special, to be valued, to be honored. And these desires may take us along all kinds of roads, some of which really were not meant for us. But we go wandering, looking for these things, but help us to realize that in Christ we might find it. And if we will come to you and connect with you, if we will journey with you, God, in life, we will feel something, we will know something about ourselves, and we will be something and someone special indeed. And give us the wisdom we need to connect with you and to connect with that reality and to live life in the best way we know how, with your grace and with your power. Bless the many who have joined in and who will benefit from this program as it is aired and in the future. I pray, God, that you will cover us with your robe of righteousness, and that you would bless us going in and coming out, that you would meet all our needs, that you would satisfy the desires of all hearts. And may we know that you are sufficient for us. Keep us, forgive us, bless us, and continue to be with us on the journey every step of the way. We pray with thanksgiving in the name of Jesus Christ, O Lord. Amen and amen.
Amen. Amen.
To be with you, Doc.
Thank you. Before we head back to our host, I want to let you know that next week we have a dynamite speaker. We'll be interviewing the youngest Black pilot in the country of the United Kingdom. Asher McKenzie will be with us. He will talk about soaring to the skies, brethren. He will tell us how to set goals, how to move to the next level in our experience, and most of all, how to take what we've learned over these last 6 weeks and put it into practice in everyday lives through the power of the Holy Spirit. God bless you. Thank you again for allowing us to come. Thank Naomi, Dr. Fox, and of course, the entire team. God bless you.
God bless you.
Again, a really heartfelt thanks from everyone here at Trinidad for the work that you guys are doing. We really appreciate it. And it's always a nice experience to voice and hear this concrete knowledge on issues of relationship. And as Pastor said, we're going to have the youngest airline pilot, Asher McKenzie, and what better relationship than to focus is the one between ourselves and God. And I'm sure he's going to highlight exactly how that has affected his career and his life as a person.
Yes, so make sure you tune in next week. And for the persons who are on, if you have missed this series or any other prior, you can get it on our YouTube site, the Cocoyea Seventh-day Adventist, and you can always share it with the young persons who are not on today, right? So next week, share the message with your friends and families, and we hope to see all of you here.
It's going to be real, it's going to be raw, and be ready next week. Thanks for joining. We'll see you guys.
Okay.
Mother loves you, so what do? I want to be saved, but I gotta stay cool too. And no, I'm not a fool. I know eventually I'm gonna have to choose. And really, I don't wanna lose my ticket into heaven and a chance to be used by you. And if it's God that I'm after, I just can't serve two masters. And before something happens, I gotta turn it all around, because I know I can't just have my cake and eat it too. Cause it's real easy to stay on the fence and still do you. And it'd be cool if we could love the Lord and still go do our thing. But see, it doesn't work like that. You gotta be white or black. See, I've realized when it comes to sin, you just don't compromise. choice. See, it's a matter of death and life. Be weak and do wrong, or be strong and do right. And I don't wanna keep going to church, singing all about how much you're worth, and then continue doing my dirt, living as if I didn't care if you're hurt. Cause if it's God that I'm after, I just can't serve two masters.